Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director, Event Programming at MediaPost, and this is Brand Insider, BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Jerri DeVard. She is the founder of Black Executive CMO Alliance, or BECA as it's called. Hey, Jerri.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
So glad we were able to do this. I had seen you at the was it the ANAs? That oh no, you were speaking. Anyway, I saw you speak and you were so impressive. I'm like I felt like a groupie. I'm like waiting, you're on stage getting your photos taken. I'm sitting there like I should just have my little autograph thing on. Okay, can I get can I get an autograph and your email?
You're funny.
So it was you were amazing. So I'm so glad we're able to do this. And
Um,
uh, I mean, it's just just as proof of so you know that I'm telling the truth with Jerri. She was just honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations. And that was from the Ad Color, which is a group that really fights for diversity and inclusion in creatives. So congratulations on that. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Lisa. No, I was really excited by that. Tiffany Warren has done an amazing job with that color.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful, and just I love what you were quoted as saying, and as everyone knows, always I do my snooping, and you basically their tagline, I guess, was double down and double up, and
Mhm.
you were quoted as saying that is vitally important. So, what do you mean by that? Why is that and so important?
Well, I think the on point messaging from Ad Color about double down and double up was in the face of adversity, in the face of those that want to wipe out the progress that we've made, the reckonings, the acknowledgement, the understanding that we're not on a level playing field. That there have been some really, really strong headwinds that we faced when we felt that we were making progress, that we had alignment, and people understood that there was a need to reconcile, kind of past inequity. And now with these challenges, starting with the Supreme Court and higher education, that's kind of rippled into corporate America, the feeling is that some people have taken their foot off the pedal. And AdColor was saying, well, no, now is not the time to get weak-kneed or to bow to the pressure. It's time to double down and double up on your efforts so that we don't lose ground, so that people understand that we're not going anywhere. Try as hard as you can to make us irrelevant, to make our message muted, to take away the gains that we've made. You're not going to make any progress because we're all going to die trying to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, and it's people like you. I mean, it's even your organization. I mean, Becca, that's exactly what you support, what is a part of you. And I mean, if you look at even your career, it is so impressive. I mean, you were the EVP for and Chief Customer Officer at Office Depot. You also, before that, served as the CMO of ADT. You were the Executive Vice President and CMO of Nokia. You've had executive positions on Verizon, Citibank, Revlon, NFL, and General Mills. I mean, wow, that is so amazing, so impressive. And as a woman of color, you are the image that you're fighting for and that Ad Color is fighting for. And so you talk about that before I even get into your path, just being that person, being that representative. What does that mean to you? I mean, that's not only an honor, but it must be a little bit, there's a lot, that's a lot to bear and sort of to, put on your shoulders, I guess.
Well, Lisa, I don't think I'm the image and the representative because when I was kind of climbing the ladder in my career, someone would always point to someone and say, "Be like that person, be like her." And I thought, well, I can't be like her. I'm 10 feet tall. I'm black. I say what's on my mind. I dress a certain way. I think a certain way. My experiences are different. So I never wanted to be the image of what you should strive for because I wanted people to see success in themselves, however they showed up, whatever they looked like, whatever they thought. Excellence as a guarantee of showing up, but not to try to be a version of someone else, but to be the best version of yourself. So I saw it as not an obligation or a burden, but a privilege, because I knew that when I walked in the door, that I was not just representing myself, that I was representing others that looked like me. And so that idea of being good at what you did and squaring your shoulders and straightening your back and being able to influence an organization and be a Black woman was something that I felt was more important to demonstrate to the wider organization, so people that looked like me could walk in the door but didn't have to be like me. And that's the beauty of BECA, the Black Executive CMO Alliance. We have 38 members. They all have different personalities. They go from introverted to extroverted. They're very direct, but the one thing that they all have in common is that they're damn good at what it is they do. So that's where I say, don't be like me. Do you well, and do you confidently, without trying to be a bad imitation of someone else.
Right. Well, and you talk about that, even just going through your career, because yes, you've held these amazing positions, but you had to get there. And if people are telling you to be like her, how did you deal with that and then still be yourself? Or did that have to evolve?
So in people saying be like her, there was a lot of good in that, because I see what they were saying was, she's successful, she's figured it out, she's risen to the top, she has the respect of the organization, she has the clout. So be like her. So I got what they were talking about in terms of what she was like, but then I had to kind of sprinkle it with my own sense of who I was and my own personality, because you can't fake the funk. I mean, you just can't. You have to be yourself, because that's where the fun is. But how I got there, and I always love this question, at least, because it wasn't like I talked to some people and they said, okay, at this age, I'm going to be this. And at that point in my career, I'm going to be what? I just put one foot in front of the other. And the things that I wanted to do, I said that I wanted to be successful. I knew I always wanted to be successful. But success was not defined by a title or an office or pay. It was defined by respect. It was defined by the kinds of decisions that I was able to make, the businesses and brands I worked on, the people that I got to talk to and influence. And so what I did was my idea of getting ahead was just to outwork everyone. I was going to get the assignment early and just really go to town on understanding what needed to be done, so that when I walked into a room, that I spoke with information that people wanted to hear, that I wasn't just want talking, but that I had an idea. So my objective was, what are we going to be talking about in this meeting? I'm going to have an idea, and I'm going to have an idea that's formed by having done the research, because I'm not going to do it off the cuff. So by trying to outwork everyone, I then was over prepared for every meeting, and that started to get acknowledged, because even though I tell people now, you have to make sure that people know what's on your mind. You're not going to sit in a meeting and not talk. You also have to let people know what you want to do. I learned that through people telling me that that's what I was doing, without even understanding it was part of the plan. The success for me was, I started when I met my husband when I was 23, and I got married when I was 25. So I joined the workplace as a wife, and then I had children. So I had to do this in a way that allowed me to be a mom, a daughter, a girlfriend, and all of that was important to me. And so it was really through hard work and putting myself in places where I could succeed. Because I would look at the culture of an organization and say, is this a place where Jerri DeVard can fit with her ideas, her personality, and be successful?
Yeah, no, and that totally makes sense. I mean, at every level, it sounds like, I mean, where did this confidence come from? Was this who you were?
Uh,
Or like, because I mean, that's something that what everything you're saying is spot on, but it's something that you need to have an inner confidence to really pull that off.
yes, yeah. That confidence came from Dr. Jean DeVard Kemp, my mother. My mother, who was a single mom, who raised two children while getting her master's degree, her EDD, and her PhD. And she never sat us down and said, okay, this is how you manage and navigate the world. But we watched her. We watched her manage adversity. We watched her manage, having to be three places at once, and helping us with our homework, and getting dinner on the table, and attending our events. And it's just watching her, you nature, nurture, you get that sense of what it takes to be a confident person and speak your mind. And she'd always say, speak up, tell them what you want. I mean, she never allowed us to be shrinking violets. So she was always pouring into us to speak our mind, to have a point of view, and to share that.
Wow. Well, she did it right. So for
I
sure.
know. And she's 89 years old and still, sound mind, body, got opinions about everything. I talk to her every day. And so I'm just very blessed to have her in our lives.
Oh my God. And she must be so proud of, I mean, watching what you are becoming and still becoming.
And her grandchildren, who are pretty phenomenal as well.
Well, that is awesome. And I love that. And I do agree. I think that you can tell your children or, even just someone just starting, as a mentor, I'm sure you're a mentor to people and you can tell them things, but it's really when they can sit back and watch, like you sitting back and watching your mom and then, it's process and it's something that it's much, I think, especially kids take in, do as I do as opposed to what I say, that kind of thing.
Right, right. That's right. Words speak so much loud. I mean, actions speak so much louder than words.
I totally agree. I'm curious, was there ever within your I want it to be on your personal side, not, a strategy or something or a campaign, but something that maybe there was an obstacle there or a challenge where it was almost defeating. It was almost like, oh my God, oh gosh, I'm not going to get through this. And then you persevered, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you,
Mhm.
pivoted or whatever it may
Mhm.
be. But a time when you can remember where it was like, I don't know if I can do this.
And did you say, Lisa, that you wanted to be personal and not professional, or professional and not personal?
I want it to be personal. It can be about
Okay.
your career, but just not a strategy not about, a particular campaign that wasn't working.
Right,
It's
right.
about your career, but something that was for you, like whether it be a particular position or a particular time in your life and how that impacted you.
Well, I can tell you about my first failure. How about that? My first of many. And it was when I was a marketing manager and I was ready to be promoted to senior marketing manager, which seemed like a reasonable step. And I remember, going to my boss and say, because prior to that, I'd always just gotten promoted without me even thinking about it. And all of a sudden, I looked to my left and my right, and people were starting to get promoted. I said, "Oh, well, it's my turn." And then after a few weeks went by and no one kind of tapped me on the shoulder, I went into my boss, who was the director of marketing at that time, and I said, "I'm ready to be, promoted to group marketing manager." And he says, "Well, we don't think so." And I was like, "What? What?" And he said, "There's several things that you haven't done." And I said, "Okay, what are they?" And he went down the list. He said, "You haven't worked on new products. You haven't taken an existing product from end to end. You haven't worked on a campaign." It was like all these things. And I said, "Okay, all right." So I said, "So you need me to demonstrate to you that I can manage those things so that I can get promoted?" He said, "Yes." So I went about making sure that I delivered that. I would do a presentation to a group and I'd come back to him and I'd say, "How was that?" He said, "It was okay. You need to work on that." I said, "Okay." And no, that was good. So I was like a little puppy. Did I do good? Did I do good? Did I get a treat? Do I get a treat?
Don't
And
swat me on the nose.
right, yeah. And so finally, after I turned myself inside out, the lesson was, all right, you can't just blindly think that you're doing a good job. You need affirmation and confirmation of that. So that's when I realized the importance of seeking feedback. It's very hard. We all want to stay in our little cocoon and hope that at the performance review that people say good things about us, but it's too late by then. So it taught me to really value and appreciate, because had I gone in and asked, "How am I doing? What do I need to work on? I'm interested in getting promoted. What do you think I need to do?" That would have allowed me to create a family and an alignment of what I was looking for. And then, my boss's responsibility in doing that. But I was off on this island thinking that all that I did would be great and I didn't have to do that.
Well, I love that you do ask, and I feel like someone in the position, in a managerial or position where they're looking to be promoted, may feel like, oh, am I showing them I'm not happy in my job because I want to get a promotion? Or, I think there are all these concerns where, or is it seem like I'm not happy, or is it being pushy, or is it being needy? So is there a happy medium? Like, or is it just go on and just full force, just ask?
There is no happy medium in delivering what it is you want to do, telling people what it is you want. And I say this all the time. I've been in this business a long time. There's a conga line of men outside my door telling me what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. And as women, women and people of color, we tend to be much more concerned about whether or not we've earned it, whether or not someone believes and validates that we've done it, as opposed to saying, wait a minute, I've grown revenue by 20%. No one else has done that. I've introduced 5 products. I've realigned, our whole organizational structure. I've increased our margins. And going in and saying, yes, I've done enough to be recognized for that. But we tend to second guess and want validation from others. So I think that if we can get more of that moxie that I deserve it and ask for it and tell people what you want, that would be a much better thing than sitting back and waiting for someone to tell you. It's okay to go in and say, here are the things that I've done. I think that they've been significant. Would you agree? All right, well, here's what I'd like to see happen this year.
Yeah, no, and I think what you said earlier, along with that, what you just said, but making sure you also take in what isn't happening. You know what I mean? Like being open to listening to how they need to improve or how they need to, what more they need to do in order to get to that point. So it's not only valuing your worth, but also, as you said, sort of taking the ego away a little bit and saying, okay, this is where I can work on it. And I think it's a
Yeah.
combination.
It's taking the ego away a lot. I can't promote myself. I don't care how great I think I am. I can't promote myself. And so you have to have others that believe that the work that you've done is worthy of that. And I think that, I remember like when I would have an opening and I would say, you know what, this person would be really good at this. They've earned that right. And before I could get to them to tell them that, there'd be someone in my office telling me why they deserved it. And I like that. And I'd say, you know what? I love the spunk. I love the proactivity of asking for it. But this role is not going to go to you. And I'll tell you why, but here's what you can aspire to. So it really is a combination of being open to feedback. Because when my boss told me that at first, I said, okay. And I started writing down, what do I need to do? And then I had to commit to doing it. Not like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's being unfair. It's, you have to, for the culture and the organization that you're in, if you want to stay, you have to embrace what it takes to be successful and be open to that and understand your culpability and your responsibility for your success.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Not always easy to hear, but
No, it's not.
I agree. I'm curious, is there something people get wrong about you when they first meet you?
So the thing I always hear, I'm a New Yorker. And I'm one of those direct New Yorkers. So the word I used to hear all the time was it's intimidating. Well, your confidence is intimidating. Your directness is intimidating. Your deep voice is intimidating. Your height,
Uh-huh.
6'2" in heels. It's a lot. It's a lot. And over the years, I understand why that is because confidence and presence hits people very differently. And what I try to do is diffuse that and try to welcome people and be warm in places where they don't expect me to be. I was never the kind of person that sat back and waited for you to introduce yourself to me. That I always kind of try to make myself available and let people get to know me, because that was something that I realized that people being intimidated by me was not a good thing, because it's not what I wanted. Because I wanted to be able to talk and relate and have them know me.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I could see that, because I mean, I haven't met you. Well, I've met you in person, but I'm fairly tall, so I didn't feel like you were, super tall, or didn't impact me. But you are a very strong woman, and you come across that way. And obviously, I mean, I just read your resume, it's very successful. So I can see how you maybe have to like ease people in, let them know that you are approachable. So I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah,
important as a leader as well,
it's
especially.
very important. And you
Yeah.
got to care about it. It becomes your issue, not someone else's. Well, I remember the advice I got sometime of someone at a job said, "Oh, that's their problem. If they're not confident enough," I said, "No, that's my problem, because that's not what I want people to think. So I'm going to fix this."
Yeah. Oh, I'm curious. I also read you had done an interview with Forbes magazine, and I want to get it right because it was about mistakes marketers make. So it's like it was titled "4 Mistakes Marketers Make," and during economic downturns. So
Mhm.
you said that your CFO will come to you sometimes and say, "Okay, we got to do this, this, and this." This is for the budget, obviously. And you would say, "Well, if we do this, then this is what we're going to have to sacrifice." And then usually your CFO would say, okay, never mind, because he or she would realize you don't want to sacrifice it. So I want to now turn this to Jerry's personal life, personal
Mhm.
side. Was there ever a time when maybe you were like, oh, this is a good idea, or someone else was like, I'll try this, or whatever it is, but more what you were thinking you wanted to do, and then you sat back and said, now if I do this, I have to sacrifice this, this, and this, and what did you convince yourself then not to do it, or did you say, okay, it's worth it and move forward, like something big that maybe there was an opportunity and you basically said, gosh, there's going to be a lot of sacrifices, what's the choice here?
Yeah, my life is all about sacrifices. I mean, I'm always adding to. I'm an and person, not an or person. And I wanted to say something with the CFO. That it's not like the CFO said never mind, because CFOs never forget about money. He would say, hold on to that point. Let me go talk to someone else whose story isn't as good, whose data, whose evidence isn't as good as what. Because I always, as a marketer, you're always prepared, because marketers sit on huge budgets, and the biggest budget I had was $1 billion. And I knew that when times were tough, that someone would come to me. So I always had the data that said, okay, you know what? I understand that we have to cut, but if we cut, here's what we're not going to get. So if we're comfortable that, the ROAS is going to be 4, 5, 20 times as much, and if you can get that from someplace else, I'm good. And he said, well, okay, hold that thought, and let me go get somebody else. So that's that. In
Okay.
terms of things I wanted to do, I think just living my life, being a wife, being a mother, being a board director, being a founder of a nonprofit, being I you know I'm I'm guilty of doing the most, doing it all. And I do it all. I do the things that I want to do. I love to travel. There's so much that I enjoy doing, and I just figure out a time. The sacrifices are that I probably don't talk to as many people as I'd like to during the day to catch up with them. But there's nothing that I ever felt was worth me doing that I didn't do. I always found a way to do it, but it probably resulted in me not getting as much sleep. I can tell you, people always tell me I should write a book, and I've realized that it's not in me, because if I wanted to do that, I would. And
Mhm.
so I found that you do the things you want to do, and the rest is just excuses.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I think what you said, I mean, does make sense in terms of timing, but we all have moments, or, like I know I'll sit there and do that, but then, maybe I'm, watching some show or whatever, and I'm like, maybe I could have been doing that thing that I've been wanting to do that I say I have no time for. So I do think it is those choices that you make.
Mhm.
And ultimately, if you really wanted to get it done, you would. So that I think I'm guilty of that, saying, blaming that I could, if I could, but I do
Right.
think that maybe that is just an excuse, and you'll get to it hopefully, or maybe it just gets put on the bottom shelf or something.
The most precious commodity we have is time. And spending time with the people and things that nourish you as opposed to drain you. I have learned that in my life. I learned it early, but now I really practice it. And I'm comfortable saying no, I'd love to, but I can't. I can't. Or yes, I'd love to, and I will.
Mhm. I'm curious, will you say, but I can't, period? Or
No,
you say, but I can't because I have to do, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think women tend to feel like they need to explain why.
yeah, Lisa, I'm guilty of explaining why, because just saying I can't. Um, no, let me think. But sometimes I say, unfortunately, I'm not available. I just say that. I don't always do it, because sometimes if I don't want to lie, and the reason why I can't is because I don't want to. So if I just don't want to, I just say, unfortunately, I'm not available. But sometimes I want to do stuff, and I'm
Mhm.
not available. But it just depends upon the situation. If it's someone that I really wanted to do it, I will tell them. I will
Yeah.
tell them.
Yeah. Well, so now speaking of when you're maybe wasting some time, and it's not wasting time, but a guilty pleasure, maybe something where, maybe it is binge watching something, or something, a food that you love, or just whatever it may be that just kind of is that guilty pleasure.
Yeah, my guilty pleasures are certainly binge watching anything that is interesting. And I like when new shows drop.
Yeah,
if there are 12 episodes, like within a weekend, I've seen them all back to back. And my husband's like, I can't believe you're still watching that.
really.
Regardless of what I am doing, I will drop it all if my daughter, my son, my mom calls. I'm gonna always be there for that. That's a guilty pleasure because I'm looking at the clock and recognizing that, this is the time that I could be doing something else, but this is what I need to be doing. I used to feel that the things that I wanted to do were guilty pleasures, but now they're not. Now they're not guilty pleasures. There's just things that I do, and I have no guilt about them. So, the guilt that I feel when I'm talking to family and friends is that I should be doing more of this and not less of it.
We talked about it a little at the top, and really, just not letting things go be forgotten. You're making momentum. We're making momentum. There's been, a lot of people looking to see more inclusivity, see more diversity. But as you said, it's kind of people are stepping back, and we're seeing it, obviously politically, we're seeing it, but in companies, how important is it for, I mean, I know the answer to that. It's so important, but how can they? Every brand is a little different. Every brand has its own, what they can do, what they can't do to speak out. But is there a way or suggestion that you would give to any brand, any person wanting to stand up and to speak for people who can't speak for themselves? Is there a way to do that that can work with every industry or every brand, even if the smaller ones, the larger ones, the ones that maybe have to be more tight-lipped, like whatever it may be?
I love this question, Lisa, because I always say the answer is yes. There's always something you can do. So I'll tell you, sometimes people that are maybe junior in the organization will say, I'm kind of the low person on the totem pole. I don't get to make the decisions that, move the needle, because that's my boss's boss's boss, and they block things, or they don't understand, or they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. And I always tell people, but what you have is the power to ask why. Why don't we have more representation? Why don't we have diversity? Why don't we have agencies, vendors, partners that represent more than what I'm seeing here? How are they getting our business when that is not representative of our customer base? And so you ask the question that forces people, to understand that you're watching, you see it, and you just would like to understand what's getting in the way. And if it's like, well, we don't have, people on our leadership team because they're hard to find, it's like, well, let me see if I can help you. I know people. Or are you talking to organizations? And I'll tell you, it's a hard battle. There's nothing easy about the work that's done in this space. There's nothing easy about advocating for more women and Blacks and people of color. It is not easy work, and some people shy away from it because they'd rather not, lean into the fight. And it is a fight because you have to push back against the norm. The people hire people that look like them. People work with people that they know, and you have to break that paradigm. And you can't afford to get tired. You can't afford to get worn down. You can't afford to say it's somebody else's problem. This is something that's really important to me, and I never let it go. And I'm sure there are some people that wish that I would stop talking and pushing, but I'm trying to make organizations, people, cultures better. And I truly know, I don't believe, I know that cultures are better when there is representation in those positions that can make a difference. And so when you're pushing for that and hope and trying to help people get there, it's beautiful. But when you're already in an organization that gets it and understands it and wants it, it's even more beautiful. So there's no resting. You can't just get there and be happy to be there and say, whoo, I made it. That's good. I'm happy. You can't do that. You have to get there, look around, and say, how do I open the door for others? It's the lift as you climb. And when you're committed to that, there's a sense of reward that comes from that, even though the fight is uncomfortable for some people, is unnecessary for some people, and is not urgent. But I think that, making up for representation and voices and culture where you do hear, see, and advocate for others is really important. It's really important. And I don't think there's anything more important I can do. Yeah, I'm a great marketer, I'm a great leader, I'm a board director, but within all of those things, there is a lane where you can kind of create change, where you can make a difference. And that's the thing that I think that you have to lean into. To me, the power and the impact is not in having the best answer, but finding someone that has the best answer and knowing that they're there because you were there. That's where I get a lot of the reward and satisfaction from just helping others. But you know what? That's not new. I mean, as we say, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. It's something that's been a part of me for a very, very long time. And even creating BECA was a manifestation of something I've done my whole career.
Yeah, no. And I do think, and I think you said it in a way that it can be not daunting because, as you said, someone maybe as a manager position, it doesn't have a big role that they feel like they can speak out, but doing it as a question or doing little steps, it's all going to keep growing and growing and growing, and then, manifest into what it should be, or, and that will probably continue to be something that, as you said, it's a constant battle, but it's something that keeps having to happen. But I think you can do it with the littlest voice too. I don't think
Yes.
necessarily you have to like say, until I'll do this when I'm, VP or something like
Mhm.
that.
Right. Just continue to ask questions, and be prepared to be a part of it. They say, well, we aren't doing that well. Can you help us? Yeah, I can. Let me see what I can do. What are we doing now?
Yeah.
It's just thinking through any other business issue that you have where you have to rely on your creativity and your ability to demonstrate, what you're made of.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, all right. I have to ask you a little lighter. When do you feel most alive?
Oh, that's an easy question. When I am with my grandson, when I am alive. One of my favorite movies is I love Turner classic movies. There's a movie called Auntie Mame, and she just wants to show her nephew the world. She wants to teach him everything, show him the world, and I was fortunate. My husband and I raised two amazing children. We're a very close family, and I love them. But seeing the world through my grandson's eyes and being able to influence that and talk to him about who he is and who he can be in this world, and building the confidence in him that I put into my children. It's just like it's rebirth. So I love that. I'm also alive when I'm traveling, when I'm in a foreign country and I'm seeing something that I won't normally see. When I was when we lived in London, I had two passports because you had to kind of figure out which passport you could present to which country. And we traveled so much. We've always been a traveling family. And I would always take my kids, and they'd say, but your kids are so young. I said, yes, but they're going to recognize that there's a greater world in the US. There's different ways, there's accepting of cultures. And so we still travel. We were just a month ago, we had 26 family and friends in Italy, to just enjoy life, to recognize the love that I have for them and they have for us over the years of our lives. So spending time with people that I love in places that I love is what gives me energy.
That's awesome. I have to ask, how old is your grandson?
He's 3 years old. He's 3 years old,
Um,
and his name is Mavi, and which means blue in Turkish. And he calls me Mimi, and we have full on conversations that he I learn from him. I see the world through him. I learn what he sees, and it's beautiful when you could do that. The other, it's almost a form, if you can believe it. No one's going to believe it, of reverse mentoring at 3 years old, because I'm learning from him what I say and how that hits and what he thinks about that. And when I mentor younger people, they think that I'm providing all the wisdom, but I learn from them. And I learned, the kind of from young people, I learned the what is important for you to stress early on about who they are and what they can be, and to affirm their right, their ability, their capability, as well as be that honest and said, maybe you didn't do that so well, because sometimes it's easy to point the finger and not own the thumb of what it is you can do to make things better. So I'm a straight shooter.
That's awesome. And I feel like with what when you're saying you learn from, I'm sure there's a lot of things you're learning from your grandson, but it's also like, if you, as you say, if you say something to him, you're thinking maybe it's a great thing or it's this or whatever, but then maybe he responds like, what do you mean? Or whatever. Like if he
He
responds
remembers.
in a
No,
negative,
he
like he's more honest than saying it to me or to someone else who's older.
and their minds are forming and shaping around what you say and what that means. And I can see him thinking when I'm talking to him, and I see the cognitive ability to understand what you would think, oh, you can't talk to a 3-year old about that, and you can, because they are really eager and prepared for those conversations. I mean, we have fun, we do silly songs, but we also have conversations about things that are meaningful, how he feels, and his parents give him choice about what he wants to eat and where he wants to go and how he wants to do it within a range, right? Within a range. And I learned from them. So it's but hey, my stepfather is 100 years old. My mom is 89. I've been married to the same man for 40 years. I have 2 amazing children that are successful in their own right, a grandchild. So I pinch myself. Life is good, and I have no complaints. And I'm just trying to honor that feeling of contentment, pass that on, and continue to make sure that I am centered in what it is that I am supposed to do and enjoy doing.
Yeah, well, I think that's a perfect note to end this on, Jerry. You are awesome, and your contentment shows in just the way you shine. So I really appreciate you taking the time and talking with me.
Oh, well, thank you, Lisa. You made this very easy. It's like I could have had a drink and we could have just coffee, wine,
Yeah,
anything. Thank you.
I agree. Well, thank you. And thank you for watching. And as I always ask, if you know anyone that you want me to sort of pull back the curtain on, please let me know and I will do my best. And Jerry, again, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.